The morning sun cast long shadows across Sarah Mitchell's modest Phoenix home as she completed her daily 5-mile run. Her breathing remained controlled, steady, a testament to years of rigorous training that her neighbors attributed to simple fitness enthusiasm. They had no idea that the blonde real estate agent who helped them find dream homes had once operated in the darkest corners of the intelligence world. Sarah's kitchen was orderly, almost military in its precision. As she prepared her protein shake, her eyes unconsciously scanned the street outside through her kitchen window. Old habits died hard. The small digital clock on her microwave read 0600. She'd been awake since 0430, another holdover from her previous life. On the wall hung a single photograph, Sarah in business attire receiving a real estate award. But those who knew where to look might notice the slight bulge at her ankle where she still carried a concealed Glock 43. 8 years ago, Sarah had been one of the CIA's most effective Special Activities Division operatives. Recruited straight out of college for her linguistic abilities and tested physical aptitude, she'd spent nearly a decade conducting operations that would never appear in official records. Her specialty had been counter-narcotics operations in Latin America, where she'd earned the nickname, La Sombra, the Shadow, for her ability to infiltrate and dismantle cartel operations from within. The transition to civilian life hadn't been her choice. The details of her final mission remained classified, but the aftermath had left her with night terrors and a medically mandated retirement at 30. Phoenix had seemed like a good place to disappear, far enough from DC to avoid accidentally running into former colleagues, close enough to the border to keep her linguistic skills sharp. Sarah dressed carefully for work, professional blazer, modest skirt, sensible heels that allowed for quick movement. Her blonde hair, once worn in a severe bun for operations, now fell in soft waves past her shoulders. The transformation was deliberate. Nothing about her appearance suggested the lethal skills that lay dormant beneath her suburban exterior. At Coldwell Banker, Sarah had built a reputation as the agent who could sell any property. Colleagues joked about her uncanny ability to sense what clients wanted before they knew themselves. They didn't realize this intuition came from years of reading hostile actors, anticipating threats, and identifying weaknesses in enemy operations. Her closing rate was phenomenal, but it was her safety record that truly set her apart. Not a single client had ever experienced even minor property crime during her showings. "Morning, Sarah!" called Jennifer from reception. "You've got the Henderson family at 9, remember? They're looking at the place on Camelback Road." Sarah smiled, accepting the file. "Thanks, Jen. I'll review it over coffee." The file was thick with property details, but Sarah's trained eye caught other details as she drove to her first appointment. 3 black SUVs had appeared in her neighborhood over the past 2 weeks. Different plates each time, but the same general description. The drivers never left their vehicles, always wore sunglasses regardless of weather, and seemed particularly interested in houses at the end of cul-de-sacs, optimal for quick extraction. The local news had been running stories about missing persons, mostly young professionals, some with connections to ongoing federal investigations. The pattern was subtle, but Sarah recognized it. A cartel was establishing operations in Phoenix, likely probing for witnesses or informants. Her jaw tightened slightly as she drove past another suspicious vehicle parked near the elementary school. During her lunch break, Sarah visited her regular coffee shop, choosing her usual table with clear sight lines to all entrances. Her Spanish remained flawless, allowing her to eavesdrop on conversations without appearing to understand. 2 men at a nearby table discussed merchandise, arriving next week, their dialect distinctly Sinaloan. Sarah mentally catalogued their faces, noted the telltale bulges of concealed weapons, and finished her cappuccino without any outward reaction. The afternoon brought more showings, more opportunities to observe. Sarah's route between properties wasn't random. She systematically covered different sectors of the city, building a mental map of new suspicious activities. A tire shop that never seemed to have customers. A nightclub that had opened without any advertising. Storage units with excessive security for their claimed purposes. As evening approached, Sarah changed into running gear for her second workout of the day. Her route took her past several of the locations she'd identified, allowing her to observe shift changes and vehicle movements. The old Sarah, Agent Mitchell, would have compiled detailed reports, coordinated with local law enforcement, and initiated surveillance operations. But that life was behind her now. Or so she kept telling herself. Her phone buzzed with a text from her boss. "Great work on the Camelback sale. Client specifically mentioned how safe they felt with you. You're a natural protector, Sarah." If only he knew. Sarah's shower was military quick, efficient. As she prepared dinner, grilled chicken, quinoa, steamed vegetables, her mind processed the day's observations. The cartel presence was growing bolder. Their operations showed increasing sophistication. Most concerning was their apparent interest in residential areas typically inhabited by federal employees and their families. She ate while reviewing property listings for tomorrow, but her tactical mind was elsewhere. The cartel's pattern suggested they were searching for someone specific. Their methodology indicated professional training, possibly ex-military sicarios. The question was, how long before their expanding search grid intersected with her carefully constructed civilian life? Sarah's laptop displayed rows of available properties, but her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Once, she would have accessed classified databases, run facial recognition on the suspicious individuals, traced vehicle registrations through federal systems. Now, she was just a real estate agent who happened to notice things. Except she wasn't just anything. The Glock at her ankle, the knife concealed in her car's door panel, the go bag hidden in her closet, all testified to the truth she couldn't fully abandon. Sarah Mitchell might sell houses, but Agent Mitchell remained vigilant, a sleeping predator among sheep. As she prepared for bed, Sarah performed her nightly security check, doors locked, windows secured, motion sensors active. Her bedroom appeared normal to casual observation, but the furniture arrangement created natural defensive positions, and the mirror placement eliminated blind spots. Her service weapon rested in a biometric safe bolted to her nightstand. Sleep came fitfully, as always. In her dreams, she moved through Medellin's safe houses, conducted midnight extractions in Juarez, and neutralized threats in Sao Paulo favelas. She woke twice, once at a neighbor's cat triggering motion lights, again at a vehicle slowly passing her house. Both times, she was fully alert within seconds, hand instinctively reaching for her weapon. Morning brought new property listings and client meetings, but also fresh intelligence. The coffee shop conversations had mentioned a package arriving soon. The storage unit had received late-night deliveries. Most troubling, she noticed the same black SUV pass her office twice, different plates than yesterday, but the same driver profile. Sarah's final appointment was at the Biltmore Shopping Center. As she drove, her mirrors revealed a tale, professional, maintaining proper distance, using parallel streets to avoid detection. Most people wouldn't have noticed. Sarah wasn't most people. She recognized the technique. They were herding her toward a predetermined location. The shopping center's parking structure would provide isolation, multiple exit routes for them, and limited options for her. Classic kidnapping setup. Sarah's mind shifted automatically into operational mode, analyzing threats, calculating responses, preparing contingencies. As she parked, Sarah made a decision. She could evade, call authorities, or disappear entirely, all viable options from her training. Instead, she chose to maintain her cover and assess the threat directly. If the cartel was targeting real estate agents for some reason, she needed to know why. Besides, a small part of her, the part that missed the adrenaline, the purpose, the clarity of action, welcomed what was coming. Sarah Mitchell might be a civilian, But Agent Mitchell had never truly left the fight. Whatever these men wanted, they were about to discover they'd chosen their target very poorly indeed. She locked her car, adjusted her blazer to ensure easy access to her concealed carry positions, and walked calmly toward the mall entrance. Her breathing remained steady, her expression pleasantly neutral. To any observer, she was just another professional woman finishing her workday with some shopping. But in her peripheral vision, she tracked 4 men exiting vehicles, noted their positions, catalogued their weapons, and began calculating angles of attack. The familiar cold focus settled over her like an old friend. Sarah Mitchell was about to go shopping. Agent Mitchell was about to go to work. The automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss. Somewhere in Mexico City, a cartel intelligence officer was about to learn why Phoenix had once been considered off-limits to their operations. They'd forgotten about La Sombra. Sarah intended to remind them, permanently. Her heels clicked steadily on the polished floor as she entered the mall. Behind her, 4 shadows followed. The hunt was on, but the cartel had critically misunderstood one thing: they weren't the predators here. They were the prey. The black Ford Explorer maintained perfect surveillance distance as Sarah navigated through Phoenix evening traffic, its occupants unaware their target had marked them 16 blocks ago. Sarah's trained eye caught the telltale signs: the driver's rigid posture, the passenger's constant mirror checks, and most tellingly, the way they'd switched positions with an identical Explorer at the last intersection, a classic box surveillance pattern. Her Audi Q5 responded smoothly as she tested her shadows, making seemingly random turns through Scottsdale's upscale neighborhoods. The pursuing vehicles, now 3 she'd identified, demonstrated concerning sophistication. This wasn't local muscle, these were trained operators using Drug Enforcement Administration textbook techniques. Sarah had once helped write that textbook. She glanced at her phone mounted on the dashboard. No signal. Professional jammers, probably military-grade equipment repurposed from Mexican army deserters. The cartel had upgraded their technical capabilities significantly since her operational days. Her fingers drummed lightly on the steering wheel as she considered her options. Standard protocol would be to break contact, alert handlers, and relocate. But Sarah Mitchell didn't have handlers anymore. The Biltmore Fashion Park came into view, its high-end stores bustling with evening shoppers. Sarah had initially planned to shop for client gifts, but now she recognized the tactical advantages: multiple exits, security cameras, crowds for concealment. Her pursuers were herding her exactly where she'd already decided to go. Sometimes the best strategy was letting the enemy think they were winning. She pulled into the parking structure, deliberately choosing the second level. Ground floor was too exposed, third was too isolated. Her Audi slid into a space between a Mercedes and a Range Rover, expensive cars suggesting owners who'd likely installed dashboard cameras. Additional witnesses. As she gathered her purse, Sarah's peripheral vision catalogued her surroundings with mechanical precision. 4 hostiles exiting 2 vehicles, spacing themselves for overlapping fields of fire. Professional deployment pattern. The leader, medium height, facial scar, Sinaloa tattoos visible on his neck, spoke quietly into a throat mic. Coordinated operation. Sarah stepped out, locked her car with deliberate normalcy, and walked toward Neiman Marcus. Her heels clicked steadily on concrete, but her trained ears picked up the synchronized footsteps following. Inside, she paused at a jewelry counter, using the glass reflection to study her pursuers. They'd split into pairs, 2 trailing directly, 2 moving to flanking positions. "Can I help you find something special today?" asked the sales associate, a young woman whose name tag read, Madison. "Just browsing, thank you," Sarah replied, her voice carrying the perfect note of distracted shopper. She moved deeper into the store, noting how her shadows maintained contact while trying to appear casual. Their leather jackets were wrong for the weather, clearly concealing weapons. At a display of designer handbags, Sarah bent to examine a lower shelf, using the movement to check her ankle holster. The Glock 43 remained secure. Through the store's sound system, she could hear faint static interference. Their jammers were powerful but imperfect. She straightened, catching a reflection showing the scarred leader speaking urgently into his radio. Moving toward the cosmetics department, Sarah's trained ear picked up fragments of rapid Spanish. La rubia, testigo federal, cuidado, professional. The blonde, federal witness, careful, professional. They thought she was in witness protection. It explained their cautious approach, their professional methodology. They believed they were hunting a protected government witness, not a former operator. Sarah paused at a MAC Cosmetics counter, testing lipstick shades while analyzing her tactical situation. The store's layout offered limited egress points, security guards were notably absent, and the jammer suggested a grab team waiting outside. Time to change the battlefield. She moved toward the mall's main concourse, her followers maintaining their disciplined spacing. As she passed the Starbucks, Sarah caught more reflected glimpses of her pursuers. Their formation was textbook DA-2 textbook. These weren't just cartel sicarios. They were former law enforcement, possibly Mexican federal police who'd switched sides for better pay. The crowds thinned as she approached the mall's eastern wing, under renovation. Construction barriers funneled shoppers toward a narrower walkway. Sarah recognized the tactical funnel. They were moving her toward an isolation point. She slowed, pretending interest in a window display while evaluating options. Her phone vibrated against her hip. The jammers were weakening at this distance from their vehicles. Sarah pulled it out, noting she had minimal signal. As she pretended to check messages, she activated an encrypted app, one of many, retirement gifts, from Langley. The app silently pinged nearby cell towers, confirming what she suspected: local emergency frequencies were being jammed too. A maintenance door stood slightly ajar 20 yards ahead, probably their intended extraction point. Sarah made her decision. Sometimes the best defense required drawing the enemy in, letting them commit to their attack before revealing your capabilities. She'd counted 6 hostiles in the mall, estimated 4 more outside. 10 operatives for 1 witness suggested either extreme caution or mistaken identity regarding her importance. She walked steadily toward the maintenance door, letting her body language project growing nervousness. Behind her, she heard quickening footsteps, whispered commands in Spanish. The leader was calling in the grab team. Sarah's fingers brushed her purse, feeling the ceramic knife concealed in its lining, the tactical pen clipped to its interior pocket. 15 yards from the door, Sarah noticed a custodial cart partially blocking the narrowed walkway. Its position wasn't accidental. They'd created a choke point. Smart tactics, but they'd made 2 critical errors: assuming their target was merely a protected witness, and choosing a location with limited witnesses. Both mistakes would cost them. She paused at the cart, pretending to adjust her shoe while scanning for cameras. This section was a surveillance dead zone, no security coverage. The sicarios had done their homework. Sarah stood, took 3 more steps, then froze as 4 men emerged from the maintenance door ahead. Combined with the 6 behind, they'd effectively boxed her in. "Senorita Mitchell," the scarred leader called out, his accent confirming her suspicion about his federal police background. "Please don't make this difficult. We simply want to talk." Sarah turned slowly, hands visible, playing the frightened civilian perfectly. Her eyes darted between the men, noting positions, identifying weapons, cataloging threats. The leader approached confidently, too confidently. "There's been a misunderstanding," Sarah said, letting her voice quaver slightly. "I don't know what you want, but we know who you are," the leader interrupted. "Maria Elena Gutierrez. You testified against the Sonora Cartel 6 months ago. Now you hide here with federal protection, yes? This ends today." The mistaken identity confirmed Sarah's suspicions. Some desk analyst had mixed up two blonde, 30-something women in Phoenix. Their actual target was probably safely tucked away in a federal marshal's safehouse across town. These men had just attempted to kidnap a CIA-trained operative based on a clerical error. "Please," Sarah said, taking a step backward, letting her purse slip from her shoulder. "I have money. We can work something out." The leader smiled, gesturing to his men to close in. "Of course we can, señorita. But first, you come with us. We have questions about your testimony." Sarah bent to retrieve her purse, using the motion to shift her weight onto the balls of her feet. Her fingers found the ceramic knife as she straightened. The sicarios had closed to within arm's reach, confident in their numerical advantage and presumed control of the situation. "Before we go," Sarah said, her voice suddenly steady, all pretense of fear evaporating, "you should know you've made a terrible mistake." The leader's eyes narrowed at her tonal shift. "What mistake?" "I'm not Maria Gutierrez," Sarah replied, her trained muscles coiling for action. "I'm something much worse." Confusion flickered across the scarred face for exactly 1.3 seconds, the precise window Sarah needed. Her ceramic knife was already in motion, slashing across the leader's extended weapon hand. As he recoiled, her tactical pen found the throat of the nearest sicario, a precise strike to the carotid that dropped him instantly. The remaining men reacted with trained precision, but Sarah was already moving. 8 years of retirement hadn't dulled reflexes honed in Colombian jungles and Juarez safe houses. She flowed between attackers like water, using their numbers against them in the confined space. A grabbed wrist became a lever for a throw. A blocked punch transformed into a joint lock. Each movement was economical, precise, devastatingly effective. 2 more sicarios fell before the others could process what was happening. Their careful planning hadn't accounted for a target who not only anticipated their ambush but welcomed it. The scarred leader, clutching his bleeding hand, barked orders in rapid Spanish. His men tried to create distance, reaching for weapons, but Sarah had already closed the gap. She used one sicario as a shield against his partner's drawn pistol, then drove an elbow into his solar plexus before sweeping his legs. Everything happened in seconds. By the time mall security cameras finally picked up the action, 5 cartel soldiers lay groaning on the polished floor. The leader and remaining 4 men faced Sarah with newfound wariness, their confident approach shattered by the methodical destruction of their teammates. "Who are you?" the leader demanded, his professional composure cracking. Sarah adjusted her blazer, the ceramic knife held low and ready. Her breathing remained controlled, her expression calm. Around them, other shoppers were beginning to notice the confrontation, some pulling out phones despite the jamming interference. "Someone you should have left alone," Sarah replied. "Now, shall we discuss this mistake of yours, or do you need another demonstration?" The leader's hand moved toward his concealed weapon. Sarah smiled coldly. The evening was about to get much more interesting. The scarred leader's hand froze halfway to his weapon as Sarah shifted her weight, her body language promising violence with an economy of motion that only professional killers recognize. Around them, the polished mall floors reflected overhead lighting like pools of mercury, soon to be stained with blood if anyone made the wrong move. "Miguel," one of the standing sicarios whispered urgently. "Ella no es normal. She's not normal." Miguel, the scarred leader, raised his uninjured hand slowly, signaling his men to hold position. The fallen sicarios groaned on the floor, their tactical formations scattered like bowling pins. Sarah's defensive stance remained fluid, ready to explode into lethal motion at the slightest provocation. "Whoever you are," Miguel said carefully, "you've made your point. We'll leave." "You'll leave when I say you can leave," Sarah replied, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to command. "First, tell your backup teams to stand down." I counted 4 more outside the maintenance entrance, 2 on the roof, and at least 3 vehicles in the parking structure. Miguel's eyes widened slightly at the accurate assessment. He touched his earpiece, speaking rapidly in Spanish. All units hold position. Do not approach. Repeat, do not approach. Sarah's trained ear caught the responses confirming multiple teams. Her initial count had been conservative. The cartel had deployed at least 15 operators for this simple kidnapping. It suggested either extreme caution or that their real target, Maria Gutierrez, held more value than a mere witness. No, Sarah said, maintaining her ready stance. Explain why the Sonora cartel is operating this far north. Phoenix hasn't been your territory since the Cabrera indictments. How do you? Miguel started, then stopped himself. Who are you? Someone who knows Juan Cabrera's nephew now runs operations from Hermosillo, that your organization absorbed the remnants of the Juarez Plaza after the Carrillo Succession War, and that you've been testing DA response patterns in Arizona for 6 months. Sarah's knowledge was dated by several years, but specific enough to establish credibility. What I don't know is why you're hunting federal witnesses with this level of resources. Miguel's professional composure cracked further. This woman knew things that shouldn't be public knowledge, spoke with the confidence of someone who'd operated in their world. His men shifted nervously, unsure whether to maintain their positions or retreat. The witness, Miguel said finally, knows about more than drug shipments. She has information about other operations. What kind of operations warrant this level of tactical deployment? Sarah pressed, her analytical mind already connecting dots. Human trafficking? Money laundering? Or have you expanded into weapons procurement from decommissioned Mexican military arsenals? Miguel's sharp intake of breath confirmed her last guess. Sarah filed away this intelligence. If the Sonora cartel was trafficking military weapons, it explained their upgraded equipment and tactics. It also meant they had connections reaching into Mexican government arsenals, a significant escalation from traditional narcotics operations. Listen, Miguel said, his voice low and urgent. We made a mistake. We'll leave Phoenix tonight. The witness, the real one, she's your problem now. But you need to know, there are others coming. Not just us. The information she has. He trailed off, looking genuinely frightened. Before Sarah could probe further, the mall's public address system crackled to life. Attention shoppers, the mall will be closing in 15 minutes. Please complete your purchases and exit through the main entrances. The announcement provided perfect cover for extraction. Sarah made a calculated decision. Take your wounded and go. But understand this, Phoenix is now off limits to your organization. If I see Sonora cartel operations in the city again, I won't be as merciful. Miguel nodded quickly, gesturing to his men. They helped their injured colleagues to their feet, maintaining wary distance from Sarah. As they began retreating toward the maintenance exit, Miguel paused. The woman you're protecting, he said quietly. Maria Gutierrez, she has evidence about Operation Sinaloa Dawn. Military weapons, yes, but also something else. Something that made the cartels unite for the first time in decades. Be very careful who you trust. With that cryptic warning, Miguel and his team disappeared through the maintenance door. Sarah remained in position until her trained ear confirmed their vehicles departing the parking structure. Only then did she relax her stance, sliding the ceramic knife back into her purse. Operation Sinaloa Dawn. The name triggered no immediate recognition from her CIA days, suggesting it emerged after her retirement. But the mention of unified cartels was deeply concerning. The Mexican drug organizations were notoriously fractious, their rivalries often more violent than their conflicts with authorities. Something significant enough to unite them warranted investigation. Sarah walked calmly toward the mall exit, her mind already compartmentalizing the evening's events and analyzing the intelligence gathered. Her phone buzzed, full signal restored now that the jammers had departed. 3 missed calls from her office, probably about tomorrow's showings. The mundane concerns of her cover identity felt surreal after the confrontation. As she reached her Audi, Sarah noticed a small envelope tucked under the windshield wiper. No one had been near her car, she would have noticed. Her fingers found the familiar texture of flash paper, a CIA favorite for temporary communications. Inside, a single line of text in a handwriting she recognized immediately. The Guardian returns when shadows lengthen. M. Marcus. Her former handler, supposedly retired to a vineyard in Oregon. The message format matched their old protocols: location reference, temporal indicator, authentication phrase. The Guardian returns meant Phoenix. When shadows lengthen indicated sunset tomorrow. M confirmed authenticity. Sarah burned the flash paper with her cigarette lighter. She didn't smoke, but old habits included always carrying ignition sources. As the paper dissolved into ash, she wondered what had drawn Marcus out of retirement. His timing, immediately after the Cartel incident, couldn't be coincidental. The drive home required extra vigilance. Sarah varied her route, conducted surveillance detection runs, and confirmed no tails before finally pulling into her garage. Inside her house, she methodically cleared each room before allowing herself to process the evening's events. The Sonora Cartel had mistaken her for a protected federal witness named Maria Gutierrez. This witness apparently possessed information about Operation Sinaloa Dawn, something significant enough to unite traditionally rival cartels. The operation involved military weapons trafficking, but also something else, something frightening enough to rattle a hardened sicario like Miguel. Sarah poured herself a glass of wine, Argentinian Malbec, a habit from her South American operations, and settled into her home office. Her laptop displayed routine real estate listings, but her mind worked through the intelligence puzzle. United cartels suggested an external threat or opportunity significant enough to override their territorial disputes. Military weapons trafficking implied government corruption at high levels. And Marcus's reemergence indicated CIA interest, despite her official retirement status. She pulled out a notebook. Analog was still safer for operational planning, and began mapping connections. Maria Gutierrez, presumably in witness protection, held critical information. The cartels wanted her silenced. Marcus wanted to meet. And Sarah, despite years of carefully constructed civilian cover, found herself drawn back into the shadow world she tried to leave behind. Her phone chimed with a text from her colleague Jennifer. "Hope you found some nice gifts at Biltmore. See you tomorrow for the Henderson closing. By the way, did you hear those sirens earlier? Apparently some kind of disturbance at the mall." Sarah typed a casual response about finding perfect client gifts and missing whatever excitement occurred. The lie came easily, another skill that never faded. She finished her wine and began her evening security routine, knowing sleep would bring its usual catalog of operational memories. Tomorrow she would meet Marcus at sunset. Whatever Operation Sinaloa Dawn entailed, it had already shattered her carefully maintained distance from her former life. The Guardian was indeed returning, but Sarah wondered if she was prepared for what awaited in those lengthening shadows. In her dreams. That night, she moved through Medellin's safe houses and conducted midnight extractions in Juarez, but now the familiar scenarios included new elements: unified cartels, military weapons, and a mysterious operation that could make enemies into allies. Even in sleep, the analyst in her worked to solve the puzzle. The desert sun would rise soon enough, bringing with it a day of real estate showings and a sunset meeting that might drag her fully back into the clandestine world. Sarah Mitchell, successful Phoenix real estate agent, would go about her normal routine. But Agent Sarah Mitchell, CIA-trained operative, was already planning contingencies for whatever revelation awaited. In her closet safe, next to her service weapon, lay a go bag she'd never quite been able to discard. Tomorrow, she suspected, she might need it again. The thought should have frightened her. Instead, for the first time in 8 years, Sarah felt truly alive. The desert botanical garden stood like an oasis of organized wilderness against Phoenix's urban sprawl, its sunset hours offering perfect cover for clandestine meetings. Sarah arrived 20 minutes early, conducting counter-surveillance while appearing to photograph blooming saguaro cacti. Her Nikon D850, a retirement gift from the agency, captured genuine artistic shots while its modified firmware scanned for electronic signatures. Marcus emerged from behind a towering agave plant exactly at sunset, his Oregon vineyard tan not quite masking the pallor of someone who'd spent decades in fluorescent-lit operations centers. He'd aged gracefully, silver threading through hair once jet black, but his eyes retained the sharp awareness of a career intelligence officer. "The shadows lengthen indeed," Sarah said, completing their authentication protocol. "And guardians must answer," Marcus replied, his smile genuine despite the formal exchange. "You look well, Sarah. Real estate suits you. It pays the bills without requiring body armor," she said, though recent events suggested otherwise. "Why are you here, Marcus? Your message timing was remarkably convenient." Marcus gestured toward a secluded bench overlooking the city skyline. "Let's admire the view while we talk. Phoenix has grown since our last operational briefing here." They sat with practiced spacing, close enough for quiet conversation, separated enough to react if either proved compromised. Old habits structured even friendly reunions in their world. "Operation Sinaloa Dawn," Marcus began without preamble. "It appeared on our radar 6 months ago. Initially dismissed as cartel mythology, stories about a superweapon that would shift the balance of power. Then we started losing assets. Assets we didn't know we still had in Mexico?" Sarah asked. "I thought Merida Initiative protocols shut down most unilateral operations." "Official operations, yes. But certain interests never truly cease." Marcus pulled out his phone, showing her a heavily encrypted image. 3 weeks ago, this came through back channels. The photograph showed a shipping container with Cyrillic markings, Mexican military personnel, and what appeared to be missile components. Sarah's trained eye identified the hardware immediately. S-400 surface-to-air missile system. Russian military export. What's it doing in Mexico? Not just S-400S. We've confirmed shipments of Cornet anti-tank systems, Verba manpads, and enough small arms to equip a division. Marcus's voice dropped lower. The cartels aren't just buying weapons, they're establishing a parallel military capability. Sarah processed the implications rapidly. Air defense systems? They're planning to challenge government air superiority. This isn't about drug routes anymore. It gets worse. The weapons are payment, not purchase. The cartels are providing something valuable enough to interest Russian arms dealers despite international sanctions. What could cartels offer worth risking that level of exposure? Marcus showed her another image, a map of the southwestern United States with marked locations. Access. Forward operating positions. Intelligence on border patrol patterns, DA operations, even some military installations. The cartels are trading strategic information about U.S. defenses. Sarah felt cold despite the desert warmth. They're not just arming themselves, they're facilitating foreign intelligence operations on U.S. soil. Exactly. And Maria Gutierrez stumbled onto this by accident. She was a money launderer for the Sonora cartel, thought she was just cleaning drug money. Then she noticed the account patterns, payments to shell companies in Cyprus, Belarus, Venezuela. She connected dots we'd missed. Which is why they deployed a full tactical team for one witness, Sarah said, understanding dawning. She doesn't just have testimony about drug routes, she has financial proof of treason. The FBI has her in protective custody, but we suspect leaks in their Phoenix office. Too many near misses, too many operations compromised. Marcus leaned closer. Sarah, we need someone outside official channels. Someone with the skills to protect Gutierrez and extract her full intelligence before the cartels unite completely. Sarah laughed bitterly. I'm retired, Marcus. Forcibly. Medical discharge, remember? PTSD, operational fatigue, unsuitable for field duty. That was politics and bureaucratic ass-covering after Caracas. Marcus said firmly. You eliminated a Venezuelan intelligence cell that was 10 minutes from executing a CIA station chief. That you did it without authorization just bruised egos at Langley. I disobeyed direct orders. You saved lives. And right now, we need someone who can think independently, operate without official sanction, and has proven capability against cartel forces. He paused meaningfully. Someone who just demonstrated she hasn't lost her edge at Biltmore Fashion Park. Sarah stared at the darkening sky, where the first stars competed with Phoenix's light pollution. You had me under surveillance. We've kept protective oversight since your retirement. Inactive status doesn't mean unprotected. Marcus's tone softened. When the cartel surveillance began 2 weeks ago, we debated intervention. Then we realized they'd mistaken you for Gutierrez, and we saw an opportunity. To test me? To activate an asset we desperately need. Sarah, the agency can't move officially without alerting compromised elements. FBI is paralyzed by internal security concerns. Meanwhile, the cartels are 48 hours from completing their consolidation. Once united, with Russian military hardware and intelligence support, they become a de facto state actor operating inside our borders. Sarah's analytical mind was already working the problem. Where's Gutierrez now? Safe house in Scottsdale. 4 FBI agents, rotating shifts. We believe at least one is compromised. The cartels know the general area but not the exact location. Yet, Sarah added. Standard surveillance patterns, patient observation. They'll triangulate within days. Less. Our intercepts suggest they're bringing in Zeta-trained trackers from Tamaulipas. Former GAFE special forces who can find anyone. Sarah stood, pacing as she processed variables. Extraction parameters? Get Gutierrez to a secure debriefing site. We have a Gulf Stream standing by at Deer Valley Airport, diplomatic clearance already arranged. 12-hour window before the cartel's consolidation meeting in Hermosillo. Rules of engagement? Technically, you're a private citizen acting in self-defense. Officially, this conversation never happened. Practically? Marcus stood to face her. Do whatever's necessary to prevent a narco-state with Russian backing from establishing intelligence operations in Arizona. Sarah's decision crystallized with familiar clarity. The moral simplicity of necessary action cut through years of suburban pretense. I'll need resources. Marcus handed her a key fob. Storage Unit 447 at Desert Self-Storage. Standard loadout plus some new toys from Technical Services. The access code is your old badge number. Clean identities? 3 sets, plus Canadian passport with entry stamps. Rental car reserved under the first identity, paperwork backdated. Sarah pocketed the fob, her mind already shifting to operational mode. The safe house location? That's the complication. We only have the neighborhood, Paradise Valley Estates. 16 possible properties based on FBI rental patterns. You'll need to identify and infiltrate without triggering alerts, while evading cartel surveillance and potentially compromised FBI agents. Sarah summarized. Just like old times. Marcus gripped her shoulder. Sarah, if this goes sideways, I know. Disavowed, no official connection, die with my real estate license in my pocket. She smiled grimly. At least my cover identity has good life insurance. They separated without ceremony, Marcus heading toward the garden's south exit while Sarah lingered, appearing to photograph the night blooming cereus. Her mind cataloged requirements: weapons check, vehicle acquisition, surveillance detection, safe house identification, compromise assessment, extraction planning, all within 12 hours. As she walked to her car, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "Don't forget the Henderson closing tomorrow at 9. She typed a reply. "Might need you to cover." Coming down with something. The drive to Desert self-storage took 20 minutes, including SDR procedures. Unit 447 opened to reveal an operator's dream cache: body armor incorporating the latest ceramic composites, communications gear with military-grade encryption, various weapons including her preferred HK-MP7, and a tablet containing detailed intelligence briefs. Sarah spent 2 hours reviewing the materials, memorizing safehouse photos, studying cartel personnel files. The Zeta trackers concerned her most. She'd operated against them in Mexico, knew their capabilities. Former special forces trained by American advisors, they combined military precision with cartel brutality. By midnight, she'd transformed from Sarah Mitchell to Maria Rodriguez, Canadian travel blogger exploring the American Southwest. The rental car, a forgettable Toyota Camry, waited at a nearby Enterprise location. She transferred equipment to a photographer's gear bag, maintaining her cover narrative. Paradise Valley Estates epitomized Scottsdale luxury, sprawling properties, private security, residents who valued discretion. Perfect for a federal safe house, challenging for surveillance. Sarah began systematic reconnaissance, identifying FBI patterns through subtle indicators, mismatched landscaping crews, government-plate vehicles parked too perfectly, windows with telltale reflection patterns from bulletproof glass. By 3 a.m., she'd narrowed possibilities to 3 properties. One showed promise: corner lot with optimal side lines, recent utility work suggesting security upgrades, and a sedan with government contract tire specifications. Sarah positioned herself in an overlooking hilltop park, using night vision to observe shift changes. At 4:17 a.m., her patience paid dividends. A figure emerged to smoke, violation of safe house protocol suggesting stress or compromise. Through her scope, Sarah recognized Special Agent Davidson from the FBI file photos. His body language screamed anxiety, his frequent phone checks suggesting unauthorized communication. Sarah marked Chen as the probable leak just as her peripheral vision caught movement. 3 vehicles approaching without headlights, spacing suggesting tactical formation. The Zeta team had arrived ahead of schedule. Sarah faced a critical decision: warn the safe house and risk alerting Chen, or remain concealed and intervene tactically. The choice vanished as Chen pulled out his phone, clearly texting someone. Seconds later, the approaching vehicles accelerated. The compromised agent had just given up his protectee. Sarah switched to her MP7, calculating angles and distances. For FBI agents, minimum 12 cartel operators, 1 high-value witness, 0 margin for error. The odds were acceptable. As the lead vehicle breached the safe house perimeter, Sarah squeezed her trigger. The night exploded with violence, years of training converging into lethal efficiency. The extraction had begun, whether the FBI was ready or not. In the chaos that followed, one thought remained crystal clear: Maria Gutierrez would not die tonight. The Guardian had indeed returned, and shadows would learn to fear her once more. The MP7's suppressed burst shattered the pre-dawn stillness with surgical precision. Sarah's first rounds punctured the lead vehicle's engine block and front tires, transforming its tactical approach into an uncontrolled slide across manicured xeriscaping. The Zeta operators inside reacted with trained efficiency, but Sarah was already displacing to her secondary position. 2 FBI agents burst from the safe house's front door, weapons drawn but clearly disoriented by the sudden assault. Sarah watched Agent Chen remain conspicuously inside, confirmation of his betrayal. Her next rounds discouraged the Zeta team's attempt to flank left, forcing them into a fatal funnel between decorative boulders. Federal agents! Drop your weapons! One FBI agent shouted, his voice cracking with stress. The response came in automatic weapons fire that sent both agents diving for cover. Sarah used the distraction to eliminate 2 Zeta operators attempting to breach the rear perimeter. Through her earpiece, Sarah monitored Cartel radio chatter. Contact rear! Sniper on the ridge, minimum 1 operator. Professional grade. She smiled grimly. They still thought she was alone. Sarah triggered a preset charge she'd positioned earlier, detonating the middle assault vehicle's fuel tank. The explosion illuminated the battlefield, revealing Maria Gutierrez being hustled toward an FBI SUV by 2 agents while she notably headed in the opposite direction. 3 Zeta operators breached the house's side entrance. Sarah switched to her Glock, knowing the MP7's range advantage was neutralized in close quarters. She sprinted down the hillside, muscle memory guiding her approach angles. The first Zeta never saw her coming, a double tap dropping him before his teammates could react. The second operator spun with inhuman speed, former Special Forces training evident in his movement. Sarah flowed under his weapon arc, driving her elbow into his throat while stripping his AK-47. She used his falling body as cover against the third operator's burst, then returned fire with his own weapon. "Who the fuck are you?" the last Zeta gasped, bleeding from a shoulder wound. "La Sombra," Sarah replied, her old code name carrying weight even years later. The operator's eyes widened in recognition before her final round ended his surprise. Outside, the FBI agents had established a defensive position around their SUV, but sustained fire had them pinned. Sarah counted 6 remaining Zeta operators maintaining disciplined crossfire. Chun was nowhere visible, likely escaped in the confusion. Sarah accessed the house's security system through a backdoor Marcus had provided. Internal cameras showed Maria Gutierrez huddled in a bathroom while 2 agents argued about protocols. Time for direct intervention. She entered through the compromised side entrance, announcing herself clearly. "Agent Mitchell, Interagency Task Force. Here to extract the witness." "Mitchell?" The senior agent, Reynolds according to the files, kept his weapon trained on her. "We have no notification of task force involvement." "Check with Agent Chin," Sarah said, knowing the reaction would confirm the betrayal. Reynolds' face tightened. "Chen's not responding. And you're not FBI, that's Agency ink on your shoulder." Sarah's tattoo, barely visible under her tactical vest, marked her as CIA Special Activities. Retired. Now private contractor. But right now, I'm your only chance of getting Gutierrez out alive. Gunfire intensified outside. Reynolds made his decision. "What's your play?" "Diversion and extraction. I'll draw their fire, you punch through in the SUV. Deer Valley Airport, Hangar 17. Gulfstream waiting." Reynolds nodded. "And Chen?" "Compromised. Probably halfway to Mexico by now with whatever he could grab from your files." They moved to Gutierrez's position. The witness was younger than her files suggested, maybe 28, with eyes that had seen too much. "Ms. Gutierrez, I'm here to get you to safety," Sarah said, her voice calm despite the combat outside. "But I need you to trust me completely for the next 30 minutes. Maria nodded, clutching a flash drive. "They killed my family. My sister, her children, because I found the accounts. The weapons shipments, the Russian connections. It's all here." Sarah took the drive, securing it in a shielded pocket. "Then let's make sure their deaths weren't in vain." She coordinated with Reynolds via hand signals, then moved to execute her diversion. The remaining Zeta operators had superior position but inferior motivation. They were hired guns, while Sarah fought for national security. She emerged from the front door, laying down suppressive fire that forced the Zeta team to reposition. As planned, the FBI SUV roared to life, agents shielding Gutierrez as they transferred her inside. Sarah's precise shots kept hostile heads down, buying crucial seconds. The SUV smashed through the decorative gate, accelerating toward the extraction route. 2 Zeta vehicles pursued, but Sarah had anticipated this. Her preset charges along the escape route detonated in sequence, creating obstacles that slowed pursuit without endangering civilians. Sarah commandeered a Zeta motorcycle, its former owner no longer needing transportation. The bike's speed allowed her to parallel the FBI convoy, engaging pursuers from unexpected angles. Dawn painted the sky orange and purple as the running battle continued through Scottsdale's empty streets. At the airport perimeter, Sarah keyed her radio. Phoenix approach, be advised, federal law enforcement operation in progress. Clear airspace for priority departure. The Gulfstream's engines were already spinning as the convoy burst onto the tarmac. Sarah laid down final covering fire while the FBI agents hustled Gutierrez aboard. Reynolds paused at the aircraft stairs, looking back at her. "Coming with us?" he shouted over the turbine noise. Sarah shook her head. "Someone needs to clean up here. And find Chin." As the Gulfstream lifted off, carrying Gutierrez and her crucial intelligence to safety, Sarah surveyed the aftermath. Local police were arriving, drawn by reports of explosions. She melted away before questions could be asked, abandoning the motorcycle and returning to her rental car. By sunrise, she was back at her house, gear stowed, cover identity intact. The morning news reported a gas leak explosion in Paradise Valley Estates, with authorities investigating. No mention of gunfights or federal operations. Someone was managing the narrative. Sarah's phone buzzed, unknown number, encrypted text. "Package delivered safely. The shadows are grateful. M." She deleted the message, then texted Jennifer. "Feeling better? I'll make the Henderson closing after all." The transition from operator to real estate agent felt surreal, but Sarah embraced it. She showered away cordite residue, applied subtle makeup to hide the bruise forming on her cheek, and dressed in her professional attire. The Glock remained at her ankle. Some habits would never change. At the office, life continued normally. The Hendersons signed their closing documents, excited about their new Scottsdale home. Jennifer chatted about weekend plans. Colleagues discussed market trends. None suspected their top agent had prevented a potential catastrophe hours earlier. That evening, Sarah received 2 significant updates. First, an encrypted email. Maria Gutierrez's intelligence had been verified. Operation Sinaloa Dawn was real, a coordinated effort to establish Russian intelligence operations within cartel networks. Multiple arrests were imminent, including several high-ranking officials in both Mexico and the United States. Second, local news reported Agent David Chin found dead in his apartment, apparent suicide. The convenient timing suggested a cleanup operation, though whether by cartel or government remained unclear. Sarah poured her evening wine, reflecting on the transformation she'd undergone, or rather, the revelation of who she'd always remained beneath the suburban facade. The real estate career would continue, providing cover and normalcy. But now she understood her true purpose hadn't ended with retirement. Phoenix needed a guardian, someone operating in the shadows between law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Someone who could act when official channels were compromised. Someone who remembered that the price of security was eternal vigilance. Sarah raised her glass to the setting sun, acknowledging a simple truth: Agent Mitchell had never really retired. She'd simply been waiting for the shadows to lengthen once more. 3 months later, Sarah Mitchell stood at the Phoenix Realtors Association annual gala, accepting the Community Safety Advocate Award. The irony wasn't lost on her, as she thanked colleagues for recognizing her efforts in making clients feel secure during property showings. Local news had gradually reported the collapse of cartel operations throughout Arizona. Federal indictments reached into surprising places: a deputy police chief in Tucson, 2 state legislators, even a federal judge. The Sonora cartel's leadership faced life sentences, their Russian connections severed by international sanctions. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The garden blooms where shadows fell. Coffee Tuesday? She smiled, deleting the message. Marcus wanted to meet, probably with another mission. The thought no longer troubled her. At her celebration dinner, Jennifer raised a toast to Sarah, who somehow makes every client feel like they're buying into the safest neighborhood in America. If they only knew. Phoenix had changed subtly. Gang activity decreased. Missing persons cases dropped. Federal agencies operated with renewed confidence, their internal leaks plugged. The city felt different, safer, though few could articulate why. Sarah maintained her real estate success, but now her property evaluations included threat assessments no civilian would recognize. Her client base mysteriously included retiring federal agents, relocated witnesses, and families needing discreet security upgrades. The cartel's defeat was undeniable. Though some questioned the extent of Sarah's actions, most celebrated the powerful message sent: America does not bow to intimidation. Sarah, humble yet firm, quietly stepped back from the limelight, continuing duties without fanfare, steadfast in moral clarity. Their story stands as a testament to an enduring American truth, that genuine strength lies not in aggression but in preparedness, resolve, and the unwavering commitment to justice and liberty for all. What do you think about this incredible stand? Do you believe strength alone guarantees justice, or does real power lie in partnership, strategy, and bravery? Share your perspective in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping real-life stories of courage in the face of overwhelming odds.